All right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to some more FNAF theory reactions. And on tap for today is something that I've been very. Can you tell? I love alliteration. I love repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again. But reason why I'm very excited for. Okay, I'm going to stop that right now. Reason why I'm excited for this video is because this is something that came out of complete left field, complete out of nowhere, and made me question my sanity, made me question everything I know about the series, much like everyone else included, is the big twist that everything that we believed to have thought we knew since the very beginning of this series has all been a lie. Right. Pretty much this idea of, hey, you thought this, conglomeration, this animatronic, these like set of animatronics from like this pizzeria, this, Circus Baby's Pizza World establishment, this FNAF 6 bunker, this FNAF 4 house, right? All these locations throughout the series that we all assumed that was like built by either William Afton or Henry for different purposes. William Afton, the guy who wants immortality and kill people. Henry is like the saint, the angel, the good one, right? William Afton is the devil on your shoulder, and Henry is the saint, the good angel with the harp, right, on your other shoulder, right? That kind of like dynamic. But now, see, the Mimic comes out and it throws a wrench in all that. Where no, we've all been wrong this entire time. Henry and William Afton are not the genius inventors at all. In fact, it was Edwin. Edwin built everything. Edwin made the Springlock suits. Edwin made the Fredbear that we see in FNAF 4 that ties back to the Fredbear's Family Diner in FNAF 4. Right? Edwin made that. Edwin made a Springlock, Fotsy, Rotsy, and Gator animatronic, which also connects to obviously Fotsy, but you have Rotsy and Monty Gator from Security Breach. They were Springlock suits made by Edwin originally, right? So it makes you question, well, okay, the obvious question is who made what? What did Henry make? What did William Afton make? And what did Edwin make? And I feel like there's a few times in the series through a timeline perspective where it's like we can definitively say William Afton made this. Like, to me, I feel like it's a foregone conclusion that William Afton made the Funtime animatronics from Circus Baby's Pizza World. Yeah, in the blueprints, it says Afton Robotics, right? The first time you boot up sister location, one of the engineers, one of the inventors, says like those are the design choices you were worried about, Mr. Afton, by name. First time ever in the series that Mr. Afton has been name dropped, right? But also the purpose of the Funtime were made to lure and capture kids to scoop them and harvest their, remnant, their energy, and lead to William Afton's immortality, and also maybe lead to rebuilding the FNAF 4 Crying Child back together in a more literal way as a robot. At least that's what we've always assumed from a time perspective is this location comes first. So, or blah. The FNAF 4 Crying Child gets bit in 1983, and then this location happens, right? As a result, where William Afton makes the Funtime animatronics to lure and encapsulate kids to try to build up enough remnant to not only lead to his immortality, but try to also put his son back together in a very literal way. And yes, Stream Elements, I am indeed live. But that's enough introduction of the way. Let's hop into this video. But yeah, moral of the story is who built what? And my main question is, what did Henry build? Because yeah, I feel like it's very concrete that stuff like the Funtime animatronics were made by William Afton. I feel like I'm pretty confident in that, right? It doesn't seem like it's something that Henry made. But on the flip side, and I don't know if the video is going to talk about it, so apologies if this is repeating, but FNAF 6, the entire point of FNAF 6, the bunker of FNAF 6, the pizzeria simulator, we always assumed that was a Henry creation because it was Henry, the former business partner of William Afton, an old friend, right? Run in the darkest pit of hell and everything. Very iconic. You also have the HRY 223 tape that you get if you get the Data Baby archive and you boot the PC bunker in safe mode, right? And obviously, well, I'm trying to think of what my thought was. Oh yeah, but so all the evidence, at least what we've always assumed from the very beginning, is that FNAF 6 was made by Henry, right? Old friend, everything, darkest pit of hell, all that stuff. Very iconic, right? Very iconic. But then you have this game. Not only is Henry and Edwin's backstories one-to-one, but unfortunately, I have to admit this now. Unfortunately, they are different people. I have to admit that. So, fine, they're different people. But then you have stuff like the vacuum cleaner. Edwin made a vacuum cleaner robot. But then you also have stuff like Mr. Hugs from FNAF 6. That we believed everything in FNAF 6 was made by Henry. But Edwin in the 70s made a robot vacuum cleaner. You see the problem here? Of who made what, who stole what, who's the original creator of anything at this point.
Secret of the Mimic put a lot of what we thought we knew about Five Nights at Freddy's into orbit, exploding long-held theories and completely changing how we see characters who we frankly know very little of, but thought we knew a lot about. Many people think that these are retcons, but truthfully, very little, if anything at all, has been retconned in Secret of the Mimic. We're just having to come to terms with the fact that we know for sure very little about this franchise. Most of all, the business aspect of Fazbear Entertainment, something that we've had to grasp at straws to even know a little bit about. But with this most recent FNAF game, we got a whole lot of details all about the business side of things and how these restaurants got established in the first place, especially how the animatronics and the characters about them came to be. But a lot of people are walking away from Secret of the Mimic assuming that William and Henry were frauds the whole time, that Edwin made everything and they just stole it from him. But is that the case? I don't think so. Slices, put on your aprons and let's bake ourselves a theory. Secret of the Mimic takes place in Murray's Costume Manor, a company run by Edwin Murray, the main guy everyone's talking about. He's an inventor and costume maker that was contracted by Fazbear to create something. It's never directly stated exactly what the project entailed or covered, but several emails and audio logs imply that it was big. So big that it could take a dying company and give it enough money to keep going back to normal.
I just need to finish the new Fazbear project and then everyone will come back. We can get back to normal.
But throughout the entire game, there's very little to actually hint what the Fazbear project is. That is until you get to the parachute.exe ending, when you go underneath the facility into research and development, where all of the Fazbear project is being held so far. Inside we see this giant Freddy head, and then an entire fake pizzeria, befitted with several animatronics. 4 Springlock characters, Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, Monty, and Bub.
Bub, which to me is a very cool reference to Sparky. Because backstory, all the way back in the good old year of 2014 when FNAF 1 first came out, there was an Easter egg, or at least a theory idea swirling around the community that there was a secret dog animatronic. And it's like a blink and you miss it moment that would very rarely appear in the parts and service room in FNAF 1 of the cameras. Where you would also see in the parts and service room like the Endo 01 endoskeletons. But Scott Calton has since came out and said, yeah, there is no Sparky, there is no dog animatronic in the series. And that's why in the FNAF movie, the Sparky's Diner is there. Calling back to one of the longest running theories since the very beginning for an animatronic that was a complete myth. But now you have Bub, an actual dog animatronic. So the community was not far off having a dog animatronic since the very beginning. In fact, it was not Sparky though, it was Bub. Or maybe it was Sparky, but the different color means he was later renamed to Bub. Or vice versa, it was Bub, then later changed to Sparky. Man, we need alright, I guess it's a call to action. We need a Bub/Sparky timeline in the FNAF cinematic universe.
And 4 prototype Fazbear characters, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And suddenly, this massive project and the massive budget behind it is starting to make a lot more sense. I believe that the actual Fazbear project was a restaurant showroom. Like how the Big Top showroom is a big fake circus, the Storytime showroom is a big fake Storytime theater, and the Birthday showroom has this whole present birthday themed area. I think the Fazbear project was going to be a mutually beneficial pizzeria showroom, where he would be making copies for Fazbear, but he would get to keep this base fake area to show other clients. But if Edwin was making all these animatronics, does that mean that Edwin was the one who created the original Freddy Fazbear's gang, the Springlocks, and everything else we know from the early timeline? Well, not quite, and that's for a few reasons. First of all, these prototype animatronics are unfinished and Edwin is likely dead. Even the mostly finished Springlock suits have a big old prototype stamped on the back of their head. And from the audio logs, we know those
I just thought of something, just in the moment as I'm listening. This is not the first time the word prototype is etched on a FNAF animatronic in this series. I don't know what this means. I have no idea what this means, but I'm going to call it out because, you know me, I'm going to say it as I see it. In Security Breach and the Ruin DLC, right? In Security Breach, in the parts and service chamber where you upgrade Freddy throughout the game, you get a lot of close of his soles, his feet. Not to be weird, but that's just true. Right. But then in the Ruin DLC, which we know takes place after Security Breach, there's a big text of prototype on that Glamrock Freddy's foot. There was no prototype text on Freddy from Security Breach, but in Ruin, there is the prototype text written on it. And we're like, what the heck is that? What does prototype mean? Obviously, Security Breach and Secret of the Mimic is way in the future, right? This is the 70s, and Security Breach Ruin is like 2020s. But still something interesting. Not the first time that the word prototype has been written on an animatronic. And to my knowledge, the answer of why prototype is written on Freddy's foot in Ruin and why not Security Breach when it comes afterwards has still not been solved. It's called as I see it. Also, hold on 1 second. Okay, there we go. We are back.
designs are likely the ones that were changed. Not to mention, even with these prototype Fazbear animatronics, there's nothing to say that these are the ones that were used by Fazbear. This game takes place in 1979, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened in 1983. There's plenty of time to make new animatronics and not use these half-built prototypes. But if that's the case, what exactly is going on here? What does Fazbear get out of this project? And why was Edwin Murray's business doomed to fail, mimic or no mimic? Well, we hear from quite a few sources in the game that Edwin was a pretty good inventor, but an awful businessman.
Ed, you're not going to want to hear this, but there's a lot of grumbling on the work floor. You have a lot of new ideas and new projects coming in, but the staff can't keep up with all your changes. Your creative energy is amazing, and I love you for it. But I think you need to step back a little and focus on one project at a time.
And this makes a lot more sense.
And we know, I don't know if you're going to bring this up, but we also know that in the email logs you get throughout the game and everything, there's a WA in one or two of the emails, and they're basically meant, well, first of all, we know who WA is, right? I think it's obvious. I don't think I need to elaborate further on who that is. But one of the messages talks about, it's basically poaching the Edwin's Costume Manor employees and getting them to join William and Henry. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said William because it was obvious. But anyways, poaching them, going from Edwin's Costume Manor to Freddy Fazbear, which is very interesting. And that's one of the reasons why there's some distrust between Edwin and William Afton and Henry, is because Edwin's employees are now going to basically a competitor. And that's why he says stuff like, oh, don't trust Fazbear, or Dad was right, don't trust them.
When we find out that Edwin Murray isn't the one who made Murray's Costume Manor successful in the first place. Edwin Murray was always kind of a kooky inventor type of person, and his father, Edwin Sr., is the businessman who made Murray's Costume Manor what it is today. Or at least he's the guy who made it what it was when Edwin inherited it, because Edwin Sr. unfortunately died unexpectedly.
He's gone and now everyone is asking me what to do, and I don't know anything. I can't run a company. I'm not ready. I can't fill his shoes. He knew it. Everyone knew it. The company is going to collapse and they're all going to hate me.
Ed, you'll figure it out. Just take a deep breath. It's your company now. Your dad believed in you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left it to you.
The issue with the Fiona lines, as we're listening back and everything, is that human Fiona before she died in Faz Fest? Or Fall Fest? Fall Fest, Faz Fest? Is it human Fiona, or is this the M1 robot Fiona? F10 and 4. Man, of course, game. You just want to make things complicated because this is what series we're talking about.
You.
I guess so.
If you could change anything you wanted, what would it be?
Maybe rebrand? We could start making some of my inventions for real.
This new direction Edwin was taking the company is what led it to massive success and eventually ultimate failure. Let me introduce to you the Cleanovac, the invention that built an empire all on its own. Similar to the books, Edwin Murray made a vacuum cleaner that was so good it funded literally everything he did after it. Think about how successful this thing is in-game. They literally built a massive golden-esque statue of it in the middle of the showroom lobby.
And you can give it head pats, which is absolute peak gaming.
But every other invention Edwin set out to make for Murray's Costume Manor that we hear about failed spectacularly. There's a hidden room off near the beginning of the game that handles the returns the company was dealing with, and inside we get several different letters about what inventions were getting returned. Dear Mr. Murray, we bought your magic coat rack last May. It was an amazing addition to our home, but lately it seems to change size at random. One morning I came out to find all my coats flung across the room and the coat rack 10 feet tall. Can you send us instructions on how to fix this? We're afraid someone might get hurt. Sincerely, B. Wyatt. Dear MCM, my husband is a steelworker and recently he was moved to the night shift. He tried your stay-up latte and it worked wonders for about 2 weeks. He is now in the hospital because of your drink. You will be hearing from our lawyers. R. Quinn. Dear Mr. Murray & Co., my child loves your Jest cereal. However, the pranks inside are extremely inappropriate. The hand buzzer paralyzed our dog Fido. We are never buying this cereal ever again. Sincerely, E. Guerrero. Dear Mr. Murray, I'm writing this to complain about my purchase of the Mushmen music machine. It learned my child's musical tastes, but it also imitated everything it heard. TV commercials, blenders, and even private conversations between my husband and me. I'm returning it immediately. Sincerely, A. Dumas. The Cleanovac might have been a flash-in-a-bottle success, but every single other thing Edwin created seemed to fail. Why is that? Well, we have a few reasons. As mentioned before, Fiona brought up that he's trying too many things at once. He goes from one project to the next, making up these new ideas and trying to make them on the spot, but not spending enough time with them to hone and craft them into something good. And part of the reason why he does this is because he's obsessed with making his next big thing. The Cleanovac was massively successful, so much so that it drove Edwin crazy he couldn't even get close to that again. Listen to how he sounds in one of David's birthday tapes.
So basically he's got like ADHD, OCD, where he can't focus. He's like, this, right? It's like the Joker line from The Dark Knight in the hospital, where he's like, I'm like a dog chasing cars. I never know what I'm gonna do when I just catch it.
Just give me a minute. I had the best idea.
Okay,
This is the one. Bigger than the Cleanovac.
As Edwin is inventing something that should be a joyous and creative process, his main thought is, this will be better than the Cleanovac. Even in Moon.exe, the prototype Cleanovac triggers the dialogue, his greatest success and his greatest failure. Because the massive success of the Cleanovac
Was his own failure because he got obsessed with it.
is what drove Edwin to bury himself into work, so much so that he would overwork himself, burn out, and lose any quality control, only creating mounds of crap. And it's this distraction and overwork and burying himself that leads everything else in his life to fall to ruin. It's what eventually leads to David's death, but it's also what makes the company start having other problems like safety and quality of life.
It's like what happens with content creators and YouTubers, where they have one video that explodes and goes viral, is trending and everything, and then they can't repeat that success. They can't catch the lightning in the bottle again. They can't have another trending video again, and they basically drive themselves crazy. Like, how did this video get trending and everything? And I can't recreate that magic no matter what I do.
We see this in logs like, Theater, one more injury. Ralph went to the hospital last night. That suit is going to be the death of one of us. One more injury and I'm out of here. I mean it this time. I can't take it. Barb, I swear, if I hear that song one more time, I'm going to tear that dolly off her hinges. I have no clue how much longer I can take it here. Okay, so we've established Edwin is not the best inventor, but he's also the worst businessman. What does this have to do with Fazbear, though? Well, if the business wasn't failing enough already, William Afton is here to dig its grave. Fazbear Entertainment had seemingly been dealing with Murray's Costume Manor for some time now. It's likely that if Fredbear's Family Diner ever used felt suits in their restaurant, then Murray's Costume Manor was likely the one who designed them. After all, that seemed to be their specialty before changing directions. But at the end of the day, Murray's Costume Manor is, in a way, a competition to Fazbear Entertainment. They're both making fictional characters that people are supposed to love. And apparently in William Afton's eyes, there's only room in the world for two companies that make robotic animals that people like. As Murray's Costume Manor begins to fail, William Afton sees an opportunity to snuff out one of his biggest competitors for good, in a way that would retain all of the assets to Fazbear and make it a hell of a lot cheaper to get Edwin to make stuff for him. So he reaches out to one of the upper echelon employees at MCM, with an offer no one would refuse. Staff contacts. We are almost there. I need the rest of the Murray staff contact info. The sooner the better. You get that for me, and I can sweeten the deal. How would you like to manage one of the new franchise locations? WA.
W.A.
Not only was there already a deal to buy out this employee, but if he can get the Murray contact info list, then he'll let this employee run one of the restaurants of Fazbear Entertainment. And this works. William Afton starts poaching several employees from Murray's Costume Manor. We see a lot of emails about people getting offers to work for Fazbear, and they get bonuses if they bring other employees with them. So not only is MCM failing and money is drying up and the working conditions are being terrible, but more and more employees are quitting for better deals with Fazbear Entertainment.
And that is why Edwin does not trust not only Fazbear, but stuff like William Afton and Henry. Don't trust them, and Fazbear's an enemy for this reason. At least this was the... maybe they were enemies before, but this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Is you taking my employees and everything, you're ruining my business. You're leaving me out to dry.
The company is falling out from underneath Edwin. It's not even hard to get some of these employees over. Not only is the company failing, but one of the only things that held MCM together was how tight-knit the employees were with the upper management, and that's fallen apart too. Since Fiona's death, somebody overheard Edwin talking to M1 in research and development, but when they heard Fiona's voice, they assumed that Fiona was still alive because of it, which then led everyone to believe that Edwin and Fiona faked Fiona's death for the insurance money. Sure, that's
insane.
terrible thing to do, but imagine you're these employees. Your upper management has treated you like family for the longest time. You think you're friends with the upper management, and then you grieve the death of one of them, only to find out that they've lied to you. She's not actually dead, they just wanted more money, and they put you through that emotional turmoil for nothing. I'd hate them too. I wouldn't want to work for them either. Now, Fiona did die, but that's not what everyone began to think. And whether it was to rub salt in the wound, to guarantee a waste of money, or to guarantee a closure of the business, near the end of
I hope we have another theory about what this bunny rabbit conglomeration Chica thing is. M2. Because what are you? You are ghastly and horrific. You have a, like, forehead nuclear, like, radioactive sign on your forehead. Where, like, what are you? So many questions about what this M2 thing is. Okay, but yeah, what are you? Like, we obviously know you're M2, and M2 is tied to the consciousness of David, the son who dies at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. Who knows? That was the last FNAF video reacted to, so shameless plug out the way. If you haven't seen that, go watch that. And we know David, the M2, is the one that has the homicidal tendencies and gets beaten by Edwin because it reminds him of his dead son, right? But is this also, like, Edwin's consciousness because Edwin's also dead? Is it more David than Edwin? What's the percentage of the two? Is it not M2 at all? Like, what is this? Hopefully we get a theory by you, because you're confusing. It is calls referred to as the hand unit. Any field just refers to as it will catch you. It will catch you. It will kill you. It's like, what is the it? What's the backstory on you?
the Fazbear project, more and more change requests start being sent over. Things that would force Edwin to redo months worth of work and completely abandon the original designs Fiona had made for these animatronics. Things look bleak. It is getting to a point where Edwin can't fix this and might not even be able to finish this mythical Fazbear project that was supposed to save the company. And it's at that lowest point where William Afton swoops in to save the day, as if he wasn't the orchestrator of the downfall of the company, something that at this point Edwin had figured out. We only get the second half of the message that William Afton sent to Edwin, but it still helps us to form a clear picture of its meaning. Software development and the entire MCM catalog. We would love to keep you on as a lead engineer. Although we now technically own the land, we would never touch the house your parents built. We feel this offer has been more than fair, considering how far behind you are. It's just too much for you to handle alone. We are waiting for your response, William Afton. William Afton offers to buy all of Murray's Costume Manor, the assets, the software, and the rest of the workers, even Edwin himself as a lead engineer, including the Fazbear project and all of the unfinished animatronics within. So then, William is a fraud, right? Edwin made every Fazbear animatronic, or at least started them, and then William tricked the company, ruined it, and bought it up. Well, again, no, because there's one character I've neglected to mention so far.
Henry. Right, Henry.
And that's Henry Emily. Henry is a bit of an anomaly here, as he's only directly mentioned, as far as I can find, once in this entire game, but it's in an incredibly important audio log.
Journal entry. I got the change order from Hen last night. None of this makes sense. I'm almost done. Why change it now? It would be so much easier to keep using the spring locks. Just hire some teens to wear the suits like we always do.
Something very important is being implied in this audio log, a relationship. Edwin refers to Henry as Hen, and says that they've been doing something like they always do, implying it's been happening for a long time. This audio log is implying that Edwin and Henry were very close, nickname basis even, and it was around this time that I got an email for the Freddy Fazbear Pizza podcast, the weekly podcast I host on this very channel, which you can find right here. But the email was from Sylvie, which had a lot of other information, but the thing I want to bring up right now is this line. I think using the funds that the Cleanovac gave him, Edwin hired on Henry, who went on to create Chica and the spring locks as we see them in game, even if they are Fiona's designs, just for Afton to poach him as MCM was crashing post Fiona's death. And when I read that,
I use the funds that the Cleanovac gave. Wait. I want to read this myself. Hold on. I think using the funds that the Cleanovac gave him being Edwin hired on Henry, who wanted to create the Chica and spring locks as we see them in game. Just for Afton to poach him. Let me think about that from a time perspective. Let's see. Funds from the Cleanovac, 100% agree. Edwin hired Henry. Okay. I can see that. Because the fact that Edwin and Henry know each other, once again, they're on a nickname basis. We never hear Edwin directly call out William Afton by name or anything, much less a nickname basis. So very clearly, Edwin and Henry know each other, but it's like a distant relationship between Edwin and William Afton. We went on to create Chica and the spring locks.
And the spring locks as we see them in game, even if they are Fiona's designs, just for Afton to poach him as MCM was crashing post
Even though, to my knowledge, Chica is not a spring lock suit. To my knowledge.
Fiona's death. And when I read that, everything started to click. Most theorists have agreed for a very long time, as far back as FNAF 6 even, that Henry wasn't always part of Fazbear Entertainment. Rather, Henry had his own restaurant, possibly with Chica or with the Mediocre Melodies, and eventually merged with William Afton to form the Fazbear we know today, Fredbear's Family Diner, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He was the animatronic genius that William needed to hire on board to make this project work.
Yeah. I've said this numerous times, but it's quite literally the parallel of what happened with Chuck E. Cheese in real life, where there was two companies. There was, if I'm not mistaken, Pasquale's was the one where they were going into debt. They were going into bankruptcy. Their business was not going well at all. But then you had Chuck E. Cheese, which had, great business, great characters, the animatronics were like magic. Everything was going well for them. Chuck E. Cheese bought out Pasquale's and everything to then be merged into one company. Right? Merged into one company. But because the Pasquale characters were popular enough, they were able to join the Chuck E. Cheese gang and be part of the cast till the end of time. Until obviously Chuck E. Cheese closed forever recently. At least I believe so. And obviously, FNAF, Chuck E. Cheese parallels, it's obvious. We believed that backstory is the same thing to what happened in FNAF, where Henry was the genius inventor, their animatronics were doing well, or maybe not doing well. Or I think what we've always believed is William Afton had a dream, had a business, and his animatronics were not doing well. He was going to bankruptcy. And then Henry was the genius inventor. His business was booming, whether it was Chica, the Meeker Melodies, or both, which because I consider from the books, Chica was a Meeker Melody. And then, because William Afton was going to debt, going to bankruptcy, their business was about to be losing everything. They're about to lose their dream. Henry, the successful business, buys out William Afton's failing business, so they merge together as one. And that made William Afton very vengeful, very angry, because he feels like he was saved. He's felt like it's no longer his dream, because he was basically saved by someone else. And that would later go on to cause him to be vengeful and kill Henry's daughter, Charlie Charlotte, outside a pizzeria in a pit of vengeful rage and revenge. At least I believe that's how the backstory has been.
And all of this new information with Secret of the Mimic fits perfectly into that main theory. Henry wasn't working for his own business. He was an employee at Murray's Costume Manor. Just like in his other book iterations, Henry Emily is a genius with animatronics, able to make robots that no one's ever seen before. And that's why every Springlock suit we see in Secret of the Mimic has that signature Henry jawline, just like the Rockstars. Separated jaws with iron bars in between them. The Springlocks were made by Henry. That's why sometimes the suits didn't look like Fiona's designs, like we see in the Chica's Party World log. This wasn't a one-man show, this was a team. Fiona made the designs, Henry made the closest animatronics he could, and Edwin made the crazy inventions that funded it all. Those three people ran this company. But then, what happened? Well, it's important to note that the mailbox we get the staff contacts note in is in one of the highest offices in MCM, just outside of Edwin's office in MCM, implying that only an executive had access to this log. And we know Edwin and Fiona were executives, but neither of them would have wanted to sell out the entire company, so I think this is telling us that Henry Emily was the third executive at Murray's Costume Manor, and Henry was the big betrayal that led to the downfall of the company.
Interesting. That's a twist. Henry was behind it all along. Henry was the villain of the series, not William Afton. Okay.
But was it out of malice? I don't think so. Henry Emily saw the writing on the wall. The company was failing before William took any employees away, and Henry Emily has a daughter named Charlotte he has to look after. He needs to make sure he can support and pay for what she needs. So if you're Henry and you're working at this company, and suddenly William Afton approaches you, offers you a very lucrative job as co-creator of any of the animatronics Fazbear produces, and even lets you manage one of the franchise locations, that's an offer you can't refuse. So he joins Fazbear. His talent and creations join with him, and together, they make the animatronics we know and love. It was likely that Henry was the one creating those prototype Freddy animatronics in research and development. He created them all along, at first under the company of Murray's Costume Manor, but eventually under the company as Fazbear Entertainment. It makes so much sense, and it really puts a new meaning on a line that we all know and love from Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria Simulator.
Is it the darkest pit of hell is open to swallow you whole, old friend? I love that line. I don't know if that's the line you're referring to.
There's this monster that I unwillingly helped to create.
He knew he was
This monster I unwillingly helped to create. But here, this is the thing though, right? See, this is my pushback, this is my callback, is how seriously do we take this audio tape? Because this is I heard this a dozen times, so I know exactly what this is from. This is the HRY 223 audio tape you get. How you buy the data archive, Egg Baby. You buy him in your pizzeria, and then you go into the Syslocation, or not Syslocation, the FNAF Sits bunker, and you boot the PC in safe mode, and you get this blueprint audio tape. And yeah, it's at the bottom, it says play in HRY 223, and we've always assumed the HRY is Henry. Right? First time Henry has ever been introduced or part of the series since this moment. But here's my issue with this. Also in this audio tape, he says, you know, a wound first inflicted on me that I'll let spread to others. Right? Obviously, people have always, and myself included, have interpreted that, or at least correlated that to William Afton killing kids, using the sprained lock golden Bonnie suit to lure kids to the back room and kill them in the missing children's incident. And then also in FNAF Into the Pit, in the dead children incident, where kills kids and then takes them out to the pizzeria to show the partygoers their work, right? That we see in Into the Pit, in the book and also the game version. But I let a wound first inflicted on me that I let spread to others. The issue with that is like Henry directly calling out that Charlie Charlotte was the first death. Her death outside the pizzeria. William Afton drives by in the purple car that we see in FNAF 2, but we also see in more high depth in Midnight Motorist and the Circus Puppet minigames from FNAF 6. Charlie Charlotte was the first death. Right? And a lot of pieces fit together if that's true. If they're the first death. It makes sense. Right? Charlie Charlotte goes on to possess the puppet, and the puppet is like this figure that oversees all the animatronics, so they are first. Right? And also the SAVETHEM, where the puppet is luring Freddy to save the kids from the purple guy, William Afton. Right? That all makes sense. But then it doesn't fit cleanly. Because none of the series ever fits cleanly. None of this is offer 100% confirmed canon clear as day. Because if Henry's wound that was first inflicted on me, let spread to others, the wound being his daughter's death, Charlie Charlotte, that let spread to others, aka William Afton killing other kids. Right? But then you have custom net lines where Chica Susie says they were the first, I'm the one who's seen everything. So you have Chica Susie lines in Custom Night saying, I was the first, I'm the one who's seen everything. But then you have in the HRY 223 tape from the Insanity ending in Pizzeria Simulator saying, a wound first inflicted on me, Charlie's death, that let spread to others, aka let spread to others, aka William Afton killing other kids. So which is it then? Is Susie lying by being the first death? Or is Henry lying, he can't take it seriously in the tape of a wound first inflicted on me that let spread to others? Someone is lying. They can't both be first.
Helping to make a business, but he didn't know what that business would become. I am literally so confident in this theory. It makes so much sense, and I don't think I'm the only one who's thinking this. I would assume that most theorists are going to come to a similar conclusion. It finally explains how Fazbear originally started in a way that doesn't feel like a retcon. Sure, we didn't know about Edwin, but we always had a feeling Henry came from somewhere else first. And this game is finally giving us the evidence to show us that that's likely the case. But what do you think? Have I lost it? Am I crazy?
No, I agree. And I definitely see where this is coming from. Oh, sorry. I meant to close out the video, not my camera. But no, I see it. I definitely see where this video is coming from, and yeah, no, I definitely agree saying that, like, ever since the beginning, we knew Henry and William Afton were business partners, and then one came after the other. Whether it was Henry was the original creator of Fazbear, he had the successful business, or the failed business, but we've always assumed, we've always interpreted from the very beginning that William and Henry had separate businesses. Henry was the genius animatronic inventor. William Afton was the businessman that we first heard about from the original trilogy of books in the Silver Eyes. That William Afton was the businessman. One person had a successful business that bought out the other who was failing. Now, whether it was Henry's failing business being bought out, and that's how he got to create animatronics for William Afton and Fazbear because his business was bought out, then that's one way. Or, on the flip side, you have Henry's business is thriving, William Afton's business goes under, and then gets bought out, and then that would explain why he is vengeful and hates and is jealous of Henry's success. And that's how you explain... Elevate 2345. Hey, appreciate it. First of all, appreciate you coming to my stream, and appreciate the follow. Appreciate it. But yeah. First of all, I got just right thinking about what my thought was. Yeah. So you have one way where Henry is the failing business, and William Afton is the successful one, and that would explain how Henry gets brought into Fazbear Entertainment, makes animatronics for Fazbear under William Afton because his failing business was bought out, so he's an employee of Fazbear now. Or on the flip side, you have Henry's a successful business, his business thriving, William Afton, his business is dying, and then gets bought out by Henry, right? And they're business partners. And that makes William Afton vengeful because he's jealous of Henry's success. He hates that William Afton and Henry, right? He hates Henry's success. And that's what causes him to be vengeful and kill Henry's daughter, Charlie Charlotte, right? So 100% agree. From the very beginning, William Afton and Henry merge together. They do not start out together as partners. They merge together at some point because previous events happened that caused them to be in a business partnership until, of course, William Afton starts killing kids and Henry kind of starts disassociating with them. And that's how we get to FNAF 6, where Henry potentially makes the FNAF 6 bunker and tries to lure everyone together, burn it all down, and William Afton is casted Darkest Pit of Hell, old friend, right? That's how we get all that. Agree. 100% agree on all that. I would say my one nitpick, as I just mentioned earlier, is if we're using the HRY 223 tape from the Data Baby archive that we see in FNAF 6, then yeah, how does that correlate to the, death order? Because, the death order, if we take what HRY 223 says, a wound first inflicted on me that let spread to others, very clearly, that is explicitly telling us that a wound first inflicted on me, Charlie, is the first death, right? That let spread to others, aka others, other kids. But then we're also explicitly told that Chica, Susie, and Custom Night is the first. They're the ones who've seen everything. So then it's like, okay, well, then who's the first then? They can't both be first, right? They can't both be the first death. So then who is lying? Who's telling the truth? Is it a wound first inflicted on me? Or is it Chica, Susie lying saying, I was first, I'm the one who's seen everything? Now, my interpretation of that where you can have your cake and eat it too and everything. How I've always interpreted that is I can have the HRY 223 tape saying a wound first inflicted on me that spread to others, because to me that makes the most sense, and that explains why originally Henry and William Afton were business partners, but then once again the relationship got strained, and that's how you have stuff like FNAF 6 wanting to bring all the animatronics, wanting to bring everything together, burn all down and end the story, and also kill William Afton and send him to the darkest pit of hell, right? Because as a reminder, the animatronics you bring into the fire in FNAF 6 is Michael Afton, right? You know, to sacrifice himself to get burned along with his family. Circus Baby, who is Elizabeth Afton, Michael Afton's sister and William Afton's daughter. You have Lefty getting burned, which has Henry's daughter, Charlie Charlotte, the puppet, inside. And then you have Scrap Trap, which is William Afton. And then you finally have Molten Freddy, which, like, oh, how does he connect? How does he connect to, like, all the animatronics being burned and everything? The reason is because, how do I say this in a way that makes sense because it's complicated, but then again, think about what Cedar's talking about here. So Molten Freddy originates from Sister Location. At the end of Sister Location, where Michael Afton gets tricked by Ennard, and it goes in the scooping room and gets scooped. Ennard uses Michael Afton as a skin suit and then walks out the Sister Location bunker, right? And then day after day that we see in Sister Location Custom Night, Michael Afton's skin body starts to decay, starts to become a little purple, and becomes to a point where it's so rotted, so decayed, so noticeable that Ennard yeets out of the dead corpse, Michael Afton, into the sewer, right? And then Baby says, you know, you won't die, you won't die, you won't die. And indeed, Michael Afton is now immortal. He won't die, right? Reason I bring all that up is because following all that, in between Sister Location and FNAF 6, between the Scott Games source code and the FNAF World source code, they are having conversations. And I can't remember exactly what is said, what is talked about, but the whole idea that it's talked about is Ennard and Baby have an argument going back and forth, like, oh, who's really, you know, the captain of the helm, who's really controlling things here, who's really pulling the strings. And it ends with Baby getting pulled out of the Ennard conglomeration and off on her own devices. That's how we get Scrap Baby, from normal Baby to Scrap Baby in FNAF 6. Now, the reason why I gave that huge tangent history lesson of Sister Location and everything is because the remaining piece of Ennard, right, goes on to be Molten Freddy. Right? And stick with me, because that's not just Ennard, right? Is Molten Freddy. There's a little bit more to it. And the point of why I brought all this up is because the Funtime-atronics, as a reminder, Funtime-atronics, Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, Baby, and potentially the Bonnie Ham puppet, it's hard to say. They all give a piece of them into the Ennard conglomeration, right? Well, the reason I bring that up is because the Funtime-atronics, how they get life in the first place is through Remnant, right? Remnant, soul energy, soul juice is how they are powered up and how they're able to move around and everything. And you're like, oh, well, why is that significant? Why is that important? The reason is because it's not just like any remnant, any souls or anything. It's the remnant and souls of the original missing children's incident from what we hear about since FNAF 1, where William Afton, in a spring-locked Golden Bonnie suit, lures 5 kids into a back room and kills them. And then they go on to be stuffed in the suits of Freddy, Fozzie, Bonnie, Chica, and then get possessed and then powered up by the puppet. And then that's how we get FNAF 1, 2, 3, 4, onwards. So, that's how. So, coming all full center circle, you have Michael Afton in the FNAF Sits Fire getting burned. You have Baby getting burned. Elizabeth Afton, Michael Afton's sister and William Afton's daughter. You have Scrap Trap, who was William Afton, who was banished to the deepest, darkest pit of hell. And then you have Molten Freddy, who is the remaining pieces of Ennard, but is powered up and connected to the original missing children's incident that started this whole series. All those people are lured into the pizzeria bunker and burned. So when they say, lure all these characters into one space, one room, and burn it all down, they mean it. Arguably the most important characters in the entire series are all lured to one room and killed. Right? And the reason why I brought all this up is going back to the original point. I'm like, wait, how did I get on this topic? Oh yeah. The whole, HRY 223 tape, a wound first inflicted on me that let's spread to others, versus the infamous Chica Susie custom light lines, where it's like, I was the first, I'm the one who's seen everything. However, interpret it is I still have the Henry HRY 223 tape. Charlie was first. Charlie was early in the timeline. That's how I've always interpreted it. And it's like, oh, well, how do you have the Susie death lines then? To me, you can still have those lines. Because it doesn't explicitly say, I was the first death. I was the first victim. Right? It doesn't explicitly say that. It just says, I was the first. And then it says, I'm the one who's seen everything. So, bear with me for a second. Instead of it being the death order, what if it's the coming into consciousness possession order? Instead of Chica being the first death, instead it's quite more literal, where it's, I'm the one who's seen everything. I was the first kid to have consciousness after getting stuffed into a Chica suit. I was able to come into consciousness. I'm the one who's seen everything because I came into consciousness. I was the first to gain consciousness after being killed in robot form now. Right? It's quite more literal than what we've always interpreted. It's the same thing with the FNAF 4 Crying Child lines after Night 5, where it's like, we're still your friends. Do you still believe that I will put you back together? It wasn't symbolic. Oh, that's very symbolic. That's very metaphorical. Like, oh, I'll put you back together. You're broken, everything. No, it means quite literally taking this now dead kid and putting them back together in robot form. That means it quite literally. Same goes for the Chica Susie lines, where it's like, I was the first, I'm the one who's seen everything. Yeah, you quite literally have seen everything, quite literally, because you're the first kid that was able to gain consciousness from the missing children's incident after getting stuffed in the Chica suit. You're the first person to come into consciousness from the puppet. So you quite literally have seen everything. Because it's quite literal. Anyway, that's how, tangent aside, that's how I've always viewed infamous, famous lines in the series, the I will put you back together, HRY 223, a wound first inflicted on me, I let spread to others, and then the Chica Susie line talking about, I was the first, I'm the one who's seen everything. In a way, you have all those lines still fit, they still work, and none of it gets retconned or, oh, we've been lied to. So, no, interesting theory, interesting video, like a lot and everything. And I feel like I've said everything I needed to say. And yeah, I guess it comes back to the whole point of what we've always known about, where William Afton and Henry are separated. They don't start off as business partners. Something happens. Some business is losing money, going bankrupt. The other person is successful and then gets bought out. Whether that's William Afton's business successful and then buys out Henry, the struggling one, or vice versa. And that's how you give the vendetta, William Afton killing Charlie Shaw in a pit of rage. Who knows which order it is? That's still up for interpretation at the point. But no, totally agree. And it also does make sense that Edwin would know Henry more personally and then have like a very distant relationship with Edwin and William Afton because they don't interact that much at all. And honestly, the little time they do interact is William Afton poaching and stealing Edwin's employees. So it makes sense that they're not all buddy-buddy. So that all makes sense. Right? 100% agree with all that. I would say my one question mark, though, that I'm still left with, that, once again, I said everything I need to say in the video, but I would say the one question I have is, so if that's true, though, how does Edwin and Henry know each other? Right? They're friends and everything. And Henry and Edwin are working together. Edwin hires Henry. If this is true, how do they know each other? Where is their backstory? Right? I would say that's my one question mark. Is how far does their friendship go? Because I'm curious about that. It also doesn't help, though, but once again, I will admit it. I will say from the end of time, Edwin and Henry are different people. I hate it so much. But okay, if they're different people, then they're different people. But there we go. The three head horsemen, the three genius inventors of the Fazbear Cinematic Universe. And unfortunately, it gets even more complicated than what it already was. Not like FNAF was already simple to solve to begin with.